Okay, hello. I'm guessing this is going to be called part 3 of the Nasal Light, and this one may take a little longer. What I'm going to attempt to do is explain as accurately as I know how the truth or the fact as to how apparently it works, and let's see how that goes. You see, part of the challenge here is the fact that we're using the word energy. And this is probably the most used and abused term in the past 10 years. Even though by claim we're in the information age, not many people talk about information, everybody talks about energy. And the problem with talking about energy is that we tend to reify it. To reify means that you take what is essentially an event, what in grammar is called an abstract noun, and we make it into a thing, an object. For example, a party. Let's have a party, and yet I can't show you a party. I can show you a bunch of people. They're together, they seem to be having a good time, maybe they're dancing, maybe they're eating, I'm not quite sure, but the party is not an object. I can't show you, I can't hold a party and say this is a party. I can show you an event. And this is the issue with energy, is that, classically, energy is defined as a measurement of work done. We can see the effects of energy. Something is lifted or something turns on and is a light. There's some kind of activity. The only way the activity can actually be appreciated is by measuring its effects. Activity. I can show you my hand being active, but that's my hand moving back and forth. It's a way of trying to appreciate activity. So when we talk about energy, we also talk about things like electrons, protons, photons, and it's this perennial debate about wave and particle. So it gets like way too deep and profound. This is the thing that I recommend as the best way of appreciating using very contemporary science to understand why in the world you'd want to go ahead and stick this thing in your nose. Okay. What I'd recommend for anybody that wants to go deeply into this is a book. The author is Gerald Pollack. He's an academic up in a university in the Northwest in the U.S. He's a fine man, a real gentleman, so bright. He's done other books in the past on very fascinating subjects. The truth is, I've been so impressed that I've contacted and we've spoken a number of times because of the clarity that he appears and his team of postgrads and so on when they put these things together. So, Gerald Pollack, P-O-L-L-A-C-K, Pollack. He has a book, it's rather recent, it's called The Fourth Phase of Water, if I recall the title. And what it does is it explores what we normally call structured water. And I know that there's a lot of talk about structured water. Is it real? Is it non-real? How do you make it? Does it persist? His term for structured water is EZ water. EZ. Letter E and letter Z, and it's not some kind of clever sound-alike. It's an acronym for exclusionary zone. Exclusionary zone. And it's called exclusionary zone because when water goes into the semi-crystalline state, it essentially pushes out, refuses to accept particles and different solute elements in the liquid, so it excludes them. It kind of turns pure in its semi-crystalline structured state. So it excludes stuff, and therefore he calls it the exclusionary zone water, or easy water. So structured water, easy water, I'll maybe use the terms back and forth. Our blood is primarily water. Actually, our body is primarily water. We're kind of a walking encapsulated ocean, salt water. And the sodium-potassium balance is really one of the big issues in the body. So our blood, at its base, is water. The plasma base is water. And what has been understood now, and repeatedly proven through very elegant experimentation, is that when you add what's usually called thermal energy, electromagnetic energy, radiant energy, yes, light. Some of it we can see in the red visible, and then it starts to become less visible into the near infrared. That zone especially is absorbed into the watery base in the blood. And when it's absorbed, that electromagnetic, because that's what light is, that electromagnetic energy delivers a charge. The photon, it creates this energy excitation. Now here's a technical word, where the water is a transducer. Transducer is something that accepts and converts one form of energy into another form of energy. It transduces, a little bit like transformers, right? It's a transducer. So when I stick this in my nose, right, and turn it on, because the mucosa, that's the tissue inside my nasal passage, because the mucosa is a kind of a window. It's not quite transparent, it's translucent, but almost transparent. And behind it is such a rich capillary network of blood, water, plasma. The excitation from this light source is transduced into an excited state. The photons click into a state where there's now a charge in the water of the plasma. That water is becoming structured. It's actually, that's what he calls the fourth phase, because there's solid, liquid, and vapor. Those are the three traditional phases. And he says is that in between the liquid and the solid is this semi-solid, this semi-crystalline state, the fourth phase of water. So the plasma base is becoming structured. In the structuring and that exclusion process, the part that is structured takes on a negative charge, and what he calls the bulk, which means the part that is not structured, is a positive charge. So now there is this charged, structured plasma moving through the circulatory system, and wherever there is a deficiency, moving from high to low, that negative charge can offload into that function. So it makes it part of a self-organizing energy distribution. That may be a lot to swallow, and I'm trying to just kind of skim over the top of the technicality of it, but I guess you could say, why stick this thing in my nose? One, because there's a very rich blood supply there, just behind this window of tissue, and when this blood, which has a base of watery plasma, experiences the thermal excitation, the electromagnetic stimulation from these wavelengths of light, it creates an excitation. This excitation, number one, results in a structuring, a semi-crystalline state in the blood, and the aspect that is not created as a crystalline substance, the bulk, the difference between the two creates a charge. So it stimulates or creates a charge in the blood. As the blood travels, this charge will automatically, in self-regulation, offload into the areas that have a high demand for the energy. It's always like water flowing from high to low, high pressure, low pressure in the wind, more charge, less charge. And this is the beauty of it when you consider that the brain is the highest energy consuming organ in the body, and that when the blood flow travels back down into the heart, because it's venous flow, goes through the lungs, oxygenates, stays charged. The very first pump out of the heart is straight up into the brain, because you may notice that all of the principal organs are below the heart. We stand vertical. Gravity is carrying everything down, but there's got to be a big pump up against gravity, shooting like a fountain at Versailles up into the brain. So the brain gets the first go at freshly oxygenated blood, and also when you're using the nasal light, the first big push of this energized blood, this supercharged, crystalline structured blood up into the brain. So I'm going to stop there. There's a lot you can read about it. If you're really interested, Pollock's book, I would say the first half is really all you need to read. The second half gets very, very technical. Even the first half is somewhat technical if you're not used to it. But that's my best shot. I hope that helps. And if you ever need a snack, your brain's going to love it. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.